Hi guys, I'm Andrea, and because it's the end of the year, I thought I'd do my 2017 favorite books of the year. And I try to pick books that all were published this year, but I do have one that was not, so let's get started. So I picked 5 books out, and the first one I chose is Chauvelin New World by Alexander Weinstein. And I chose this book really because I was waiting for Black Mirror to come out, and I just read it a few days ago, but it's definitely on my list already. It's a collection of short stories, all revolving about our relationship with technology and how humanity reacts to it. One of my favorite things is that it takes place in dystopian worlds that are both chilling and cautionary because they're so similar to our own world. The features that are told in these stories are so unique but familiar to our own world that it's easy to imagine yourself in the place of these characters and imagine where your moral code would lie in the ambiguity. Although the book revolves around advancing technology, the heart of it really lies in humanity itself. One of my favorite stories from the book is actually the very first short story. It's called Saying Goodbye to Yang, and this is a story about a couple who adopts this robot child, and they've come to love him and understand him as like not only an additional member to their family, but as a brother to their adopted daughter. The thing is that Yang breaks down and basically he's broken, right? And it really kind of personifies our current situation in our own world with technology. For example, I always call my phone my kid or my computer my son, and it's about, taking those emotions and sentiments we have toward our own electronic devices and kind of personifying it all the way into this kind of ethical dilemma. I think that if you're a fan of shows like Humans or Westworld or Black Mirror or even some writing like Philip K. Dick, or if you're even a fan of the show Orphan Black, you'll definitely enjoy this book, and it's a really good read. The next book I want to talk about is Dark Matter. Dark Matter was written by Blake Crouch, and fun fact, I was going to post a video about this book, but then I didn't post it because I made it at the same time as my booktube newbie tag, and I thought it was really bad and I never posted it, so I gotta talk about it now. Okay, so Dark Matter is a story about a college professor, and he basically has the perfect life. He has a loving wife, he has a teenage son, he has a pretty steady life. His life is pretty good, honestly. But then one day, everything changes. He is kidnapped after going to the bar, and this is where things start to get really weird. Turns out his kidnapper is actually himself from a different universe. So different universe Jason basically shows career over family, and he's very deeply regretting all those choices and decides that he wants to choose family now. So he kidnaps our Jason, throws him into his own universe, and basically switches lives with him. And the story basically takes place with our Jason trying to get back to his original universe. And I hope that all makes sense. But it's a story that is just pure action from then, and it doesn't really stop, and it extends beyond the last pages of the book. I did have a tiny little problem with some of the parts, I'm not gonna lie, and that might just be me being nitpicky, particularly about the characterization of his wife Daniela, but I just really love the major themes of the book. It's kind of very thought-provoking, and it's a little nihilist, and I think if you're definitely a fan of shows like Rick and Morty, you will really enjoy and love this book. And the third book I want to talk about is this book. From a certain point of view, I have to include something Star Wars. I love Star Wars, so I had to put that in somewhere, but this is another anthology book of short stories. I feel like that's 2 on the list, and that's kind of unusual for me, but this is a collection of short stories taking place in the in-between moments in the film A New Hope. It was the 40th anniversary of the film this year, so these are 40 short stories written by a variety of different authors. One of my favorite things is there's so many talented authors on this list. There's like Meg Cabot, there's Renee Ade and Saba Tahir, and so many more other people. But what I really like is that you get to learn a lot more about these background characters that are so fleeting and sometimes vanish from the film, that they're kind of more fleshed out in the book. So I really enjoyed learning more about the universe. Another one of my favorites this year was Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. Now, Neil Gaiman is one of my very favorite storytellers of basically all time. I'm a really big fan of his work in American Gods and in Coraline, so I was very anxious to read this book and see how he built the story from the myth. But I would be lying if I said that the Thor franchise didn't have an influence on me. But only because it reminded me how much of my initial interest I had in Norse mythology was. I enjoyed how Gavin kind of translated the text for modern audiences and how he used his prior story building and storytelling skills to really create a collection of short stories that really accentuated the universe that had already been previously built and explored in. And the last book on my list is probably my favorite book that I read in 2017, and that's The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. And this book, if you don't already know the plot, is about 16-year-old Star Carter, and Star is witness to her best friend Khalil's murder. So Khalil was shot down by a white police officer while being unarmed multiple times through the back, and Star is left defenseless, and all she can do is hold his bleeding body out as he dies. This is a story about the aftermath of all this. It's a story about a girl who has a sudden realization that things aren't always what they seem. I think this is such a relevant and important read, especially for 2017 and especially in the United States, and it deals with topics such as police brutality, microaggressions, PTSD, and kind of this fake wokeness culture that has risen out of social media. Besides this, it's all told from 16-year-old Star's perspective, so you kind of really get a really good sense of what it's like to be a teenager living in these situations. She's really funny and she's a very strong individual, so I found myself nodding to a lot of her inner monologues and talks that she had in the book. In addition to all of this, Angie does such a good job in her imagery. Khalil's funeral scene is one of the most vivid scenes in the entire book, and I could really imagine myself and place myself in his funeral in the church where this is all going down, and the pain was tangible and it felt very real. So in that moment, Star's pain was the reader's pain as well. I think this is such a brutal and beautiful book, and it's a book that everybody should read, and that's why it's my favorite book of 2017. And I'll leave a link below for more stats and information about police brutality in the US, because I still think that, or I would hope that once you read this book, it would open your eyes into a bigger realization of the reality that a lot of people live in the US. So I'll leave a link below. And yeah, so those are my 5 favorite books of 2017. And I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I hope you have a good new year and happy holidays still, I guess. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.